to No Notes. I'm Colby.
And I'm Alex.
And welcome back.
Welcome back. A couple of episodes ago, we were talking about like what's going to be the next big gay destination. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then we were like each, speculating on where that's going to be.
Probably your mouth.
Probably your butt, but or second would be Torremolino, which is a place in Spain. It's been like getting a lot of like TikTok views, but it's this place in southern Spain in between Malaga and Marbella. So it's like a really warm portion of Spain, and apparently it's like the birthplace of gay rights. So there's like tons of gay bars, and the weather is supposed to be like amazing. I think it has like one of the highest per capita of like population of gay bars.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that should be our next gay destination. It's always funny that these things pop up after we've already planned an entire trip to Spain.
Yeah, I mean, we've been to Spain a couple of times now together too, and I've never heard of this place until more recently, but it's obviously historic.
Right.
So how have we not heard of it?
I think it's just because we're stupid Americans,
mm-hmm.
but
mm-hmm.
I'm sure like I'm sure it's popular with like the gay population, like the local gay population in Spain. But it seems to be like one of the big up and coming global gay places.
Yeah, I did a quick Google search, and I think they have over 30 gay bars there.
Yeah, which is insane.
Which, we're going to Sitges this summer. We've been to Sitges before. I would describe it as like a little baby Mykonos. Has a ton of little gay bars. Very gay scene. Streets are crowded with queer folks. And it's just crazy to me. I haven't heard of this place. So now we have a new place to add to our itinerary the next time we're in Spain.
Yeah, we're definitely going to check it out. That's going to be a fun place to head up.
Mm-hmm.
Should we move on to Show We Found Online?
Yep, let's get into it.
Do you want to get us started?
Yep, I will start first. So have you ever seen Hoda and Jenna on, I think it's on the Today Show?
What is it?
Hoda and Jenna?
No.
So anyway, it doesn't really matter. Two like female broadcasters that presented this story on the new trend.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Rat boyfriend is in. Hot rat boy summer is in. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Have you seen the descriptions?
Yes. So it's supposed to be boyfriends that look like rats. So they have like very angular faces. They're skinny.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the origin is Ratatouille.
I saw it as Stuart Little.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
He's like clean cut, nicely dressed. He's polite. He's like the opposite of like a toxic man.
Yeah, and can shove a lot in his mouth.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we were recently talking about, how we think the body types for summer are sort of shifting around. There's a less emphasis on heavier, roided sort of physiques, and now into like the unconventionally handsome and more slender sort of aesthetics, maybe even pale. So as I said, I think this might be my summer.
Yeah. For the first time in a decade, people that look like they run for cheese wheels.
I do run for cheese. Give me a hard parm or like a manchego or something.
Yeah.
My ass is there.
Yeah. You're just like, you have the wheel of a cheese in your back pocket. When I open up your suitcase, it's just wheels.
Just cheeses. I was also thinking that you were going to mention like the actual like rat wheel, because I would also love a rat wheel. Hook up a little drippy water bottle, a rat wheel, and some cheese.
Yeah.
I'm set.
And you drink water the same way as a hamster.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Suckling from the tip of it.
Yeah. Thirsty for that. You also betray friends like Wormtail. So I could see that why you would be in.
Can you name one example of when I betrayed a friend?
Yeah. So several weeks ago, I told you not to tell the couple that that they're pregnant, and then you did.
I don't know anyone that's pregnant.
Yeah. Well, not anymore.
Anyway, I think I'm a very loyal friend, and Stuart Little's loyal, so fuck you. So
is he?
Stuart Little?
He wasn't that loyal. He got abandoned as a child at the bus stop.
Well, that's not his fault. It's not his fault he was abandoned.
Yeah.
It's not representative of his loyalty.
How old was he supposed to be, and why was he voiced by a 30-year-old man?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually always found like Stuart Little like a little unnerving. Sus. Like I would not let, as much as I love a little rodent, I wouldn't love a little rodent in like a sweater or a cardigan.
That could drive.
Yeah, come live with me.
Yeah.
I'm not sleeping well at night with that in my house.
Yeah, and it sleeps with your actual biological child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I was the sibling of that, I think that rat's gonna disappear real quick.
I would find one of the mouse traps.
Is he a mouse or a rat?
I think it's a mouse. I don't think that color white.
I think you're right.
It would be a rat.
Okay, so what was your shit we found online?
As you know, I hate going to sleep past midnight. Do you think is that strange? Like the fact that I get anxiety from staying up late, like seeing the sunrise is one of the most anxiety inducing events of all time.
You're not a vampire, are you? Are you afraid of the sun?
How old do you think I am?
Because now that I think
How
about
old
it,
have I been that age?
now that I think about it, I don't see you in the sun very often.
Yeah, and I sparkle.
Do you?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't see it because of all the body hair.
And you've also never met my parents in real life.
That's true.
That's because they're from the 17th century.
What if I went and visited your house and on your wall leading up the staircase is just like a mural of graduation caps?
Oh, that's kind of scary, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And then you reach the last one, which would be 1779. And that's when I off you.
Good.
So as I was saying, I hate staying up late. So now there's like this party going around Chicago for Pride that's called In Bed by 10, which the whole concept is that there's going to be a party. I don't know what time it starts, but it ends before 10 p.m. so that people could have, a healthy Pride, celebrate it, but get to bed at a reasonable hour.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, like, why 10? Why not
7?
Why not at dinner at 7?
Yeah.
Party. Why
Because
not
you and I both are like a big advocate of a day party.
Yeah.
Like ideal party hours to me are between like 2 and 6 p.m.
Yeah. And that's also the best time to roll because by the time you get to bed, right, like everything's out of your system, ideally.
Mm-hmm.
You could not feel the FOMO because you actually went out and enjoyed yourself, right?
Yep.
But you get a full 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot of emphasis on it being like evening and people doing sketchy things in the shadow of the night.
Yeah.
And I don't think our people are that principled. I think they would do it in the daytime. I've seen it happen in the daytime.
Yeah.
So I don't think it has to be at night. Like I think we could do all those same things that are happening in these 2 a.m. warehouses at 2 p.m.
I mean, the party that comes to mind was Big Muscle, right? I mean, you could never tell that outside is like daytime.
Yes, because a lot of these venues are kind of like a Vegas casino that inside you lose all concept of place and time.
Yeah.
Could be 1 a.m. outside. It could be noon.
Right.
So I think it'd work. I would be very down to go out more often and to some of these big events and parties if they were more reasonable business hours.
1 to 6. 1 to 6, Monday through Friday.
Because the girls got things to do.
Yeah. And I have to wake up at a reasonable hour. I have to enjoy the day. I don't want to feel like I wasted a day because, you never know when it's your last day.
Yeah. Hopefully yours is soon, but.
Yeah. We'll be further than yours. Let's just say that. So we're entering Pride Month. So happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month.
This is you're at Stonewall, weren't you?
Yes, I was there the evening of.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I threw the first brick, but probably like one of the first 6 or 7.
I think you suggested it. You're
probably.
In the picture, you're whispering in her ear.
Yeah.
And she's throwing it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is another Pride Month, and how are you feeling? Are you feeling overwhelmed, joyed?
I feel like there's a lot of social pressure that comes with Pride. Just knowing that there's a slew of events coming up.
You're actually doing 2 cities this year.
We did that last year as well.
But I'm not this year.
Yes. Well, technically, we did 3 Prides last year. Just Palm Springs Pride is at a different time of the year.
Right. Uh-huh.
Which I'm glad that a lot of the Prides have started to like make their dates not be in June, just because like you can't possibly attend all of them.
Right.
And it's kind of nice to spread it out throughout the year. But yeah, so I've got 2 prides to go through. I'm doing LA Pride, which Los Angeles has LA Pride and WeHo Pride, and I'm not
So weird.
not sure I understand why they have 2 of them.
And one is so much bigger than the other. It seems like the WeHo Pride is more local, and LA Pride is like, that's when they get like big acts in the park.
Right, but all the bars are more or less concentrated in WeHo, and I think a lot of the activities for both of those prides are in WeHo.
Yeah.
So it feels really weird to have that back to back.
Yeah.
But doing that one and then doing SF Pride with you and our friends here.
Yeah. I agree that a lot of the times, like, it can feel kind of overwhelming, but this year I'm feeling actually pretty content. Like, we're only doing one party in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. So we're doing Phoenix Party, which we do.
For now.
Oh, we're not. Yeah, there's no way we're going to do more than that. But yeah, we're doing the Phoenix Pool Party, which is a day party. We love Phoenix. It's so chill. Like, every year, like, regardless of what other parties are out there, like, it's always just such a fun time. Like, oh my gosh. Did you know it's the last time they're having the Phoenix Party?
No.
They're tearing down the building.
Really?
Yes.
The motel?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So I don't know what's going to be going on in Phoenix.
I was kind of wondering about that because they haven't been running the Phoenix parties lately, right?
I don't
think
know,
I've seen an event for it.
I'm sure they have, and we're just not seeing it. But yeah, they're tearing down the event, which is at the Phoenix Hotel. So yeah, that's kind of sad. I wonder what's going to happen after this year.
Interesting too, because what would you want to build in that location, right? Like, it's basically near the Tenderloin.
Yeah. Ooh.
And it's just not a great area of the city. I mean, you like Uber over there and then you Uber out. Like, you don't hang out over there.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting to me and sad. It's been kind of, I think
a staple.
Yeah. Are they doing another
block party?
So, they had, what's the competing party that they've always had?
The Juanita Moore.
That's at El Rio?
That is at 620 Jones Street.
Okay. And then last year they had another event with a DJ.
Yeah. It's a block party. I think it's by Polyglamorous at the Great Northern, and they're doing that again this year.
Okay, perfect. I did like that they had added some more parties just because, again, like, there's a lot of people and it helps like spread the crowd a little bit. I guess like I do end up with like a little bit of FOMO sometime of like, am I at the right event? Like the bet? Could I be having more fun somewhere else?
Sometimes I wish I could just duplicate and then at the end of the night just like high five and absorb each other
and have all the experiences and memories.
Yeah, but no, that's a good point. It's like having more parties, having alternatives spreads it out. And even last year, where I think at the same time as the Phoenix Pool Party, they had Sophie Tucker, which was like a huge gay artist, right?
Right.
Or popular amongst queer people. And it was still a great turnout at Phoenix, even with that competing party.
I did notice it was like maybe 10% less busy than the previous year, but I actually appreciated that because it just gave you like some breathing room.
Yeah.
I hate being like shoved and into really crowded spaces and you can't move. And I really like that about the Phoenix, that it's typically fairly less busy, but still a sizable crowd. The music has been solid. It's not a long wait for the restrooms or the bar or anything like that. It's just a nice chill day party.
Yeah, the reason why I really like Phoenix party is because you can actually talk to people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the point of a day party.
Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes I wish the music was a little louder so I didn't have to talk to you, but yeah, I get it.
So, I mean, speaking of, do you think that, like, I feel like Pride has kind of become that sort of event like your birthday or New Year's Eve where you kind of like set these really high expectations and never kind of pans out that way?
Are you saying my birthday has never panned out?
It's always a flop. I don't want to tell you.
Uninvited.
Yes.
No, I get what you're saying. I think I never actually have very high expectations for Pride. It's fairly formulaic for me at this point. I think the only thing that I ever really think about here now is like what the weather's going to be like, because we do go to an outdoor day party.
And it's always consistently windy.
Now, I know that there are a lot of the big, more circuit kind of parties that happen over the Pride weekend period, which honestly, those are always so overcrowded, so hot. in general that I can't imagine it during Pride when you've got all these additional people coming in town from who knows where.
Have you ever been to Dolores Park during Pride? I mean, it is one of the busiest times I've ever seen. You can hardly see any grass. I mean, if anyone knows Dolores Park, like it's a huge park, and the fact that it's completely full is amazing. And I can only imagine what the parties look like. I mean, that's the downside of when cities are spreading out their Pride. I think during the last week in June, I think the only like real big cities are San Francisco and New York. So they kind of like split up the country, and everyone kind of flocks to those two cities. Yeah. So it's really, 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 really busy.
And I realize that a lot of these promoters are trying to capitalize on the amount of people that might be coming in town for like the parade and a given weekend. But I truly wish the events were catered more to locals and spread out across more weekends. Yeah. Just because like I would be more willing to go to those things if, like, again, they're less busy, but also when there's like 16 events in one weekend, I can't do all that. I don't want to do all that.
So you're saying that they should have Castro Pride and then a San Francisco Pride?
Not necessarily. I'm just saying, like, we've got all these competing party promoters here, Polyglamorous, I think like Glamclocks, all these burner groups, right? Yeah. Like each pick a weekend in June, you know what I mean? And like we can still have the parade on the core weekend and all of that, but I don't know. I would go to more of them, I think, if it was spread out.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, at least we have those options, and San Francisco seems to be capitalizing on the revenue.
Yeah. What are your experiences with Pride? Like, what was your first Pride like?
So the first proper Pride that I had was in San Francisco. It was 2014. That's when I turned 21.
Okay, so you had just graduated college, or you were still in college?
I was still in college. It was a summer going into my senior year, and I went in with like a group of 6 people. So one of them was Avery, and there was like 6 people in one hotel room, like with 2 queen size beds. Like, I mean, like, we know we're in college still.
6 queens in a 2 queen bed.
Exactly. Room. Right. 8 queens in total.
Oh.
But it was just like, you know, we're poor. Like, none of us had jobs.
Nothing's changed.
Exactly. We're all like cramming into there. I mean, anything's possible with a little lube. Mm-hmm. And I just remember being really, really fun. But at this time, like, I didn't really know about these ticketed parties, like these circuit parties. So we just went out to the bars. Yeah. Castro at this time, we've talked about this, like, was way, 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 way different. Every bar was like packed. People from all over the country are you know, coming to Castro to celebrate. Yeah. But I remember have you ever been to 440?
No, what is that?
It's on Castro. It's like a daddy bar. It's for like locals, but I'm like, it's kind of like a sister of Twin Peaks.
Okay.
But at the time, like, it was like one of the only ones that didn't have like a really big line. Mm-hmm. So we went in there and I remember the first night was like, I hooked up with a guy.
A daddy?
Oh my God.
A daddy or a granddaddy?
No. So I called him a daddy, and he was like, I'm 33. And I was 21. So like at the time I was like, it's relative. Daddy. Like what did I say? Like, of course you're a daddy.
Wait,
you're
so you actually called this man a daddy?
Yes.
In the bedroom or at the bar or both?
I think it was at the bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
And give me the context. What did you say to him?
So it was 2 guys. One was they're from Colorado, and my friend was like, I want that other guy, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll take the other one. And we approached them, and we both ended up hooking up with the guys. And it was funny because
you little slut.
I'm a huge slut, but it was funny because the way we mapped it out, I might be off on the amount of people that came, but
sounds like you certainly did.
Well, so we made it so like if one person didn't sleep in the hotel room, like it would be perfect. And so I took the first like shift that weekend, like where I didn't sleep in the hotel room. And then the next night, my friend didn't sleep in the hotel room.
Okay. So were those 2 guys staying together? They had their own room.
Yeah. It was at the something white off of Market. It's like a historic hotel.
So while you were staying with him, where was the other one staying?
So it's funny because he came back and I didn't. I was like, I'm going to just stay here. I'm not going to say anything. And so the 3 of us slept.
In a single bed?
Well, no, it was 2 queens.
Okay.
Isn't that?
But he came back after you were done.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah, yeah,
still,
yeah.
when did you call the guy daddy?
I don't remember if it was in bed or we were making out at the bar.
Wow.
But it was one of those two. And I
Messy
remember him being
girl.
like, Daddy, like I'm 33 and now being 31. I'm like, oh, I could see why that could be a little offensive.
That's
What
fun.
about you? What was your first Pride experience?
My first Pride, I think, was around 2009. And I
So
think
you're 46?
I was 46. No, I think I had just turned 19 because Atlanta's Pride was in, I can't remember. There was a point where Atlanta Pride was in like June or July. And then because of the heat in Atlanta, they ended up moving it to October. And then it always ended up being my birthday weekend.
Oh, okay.
And I can't remember at that point if it was on my birthday weekend or not. But in either case, I had either like just turned 19 or had been for like a couple of months. And I had gone with my boyfriend at the time and a couple of friends. And it, like, I had gone out before like the parade. Like, I'd had a fake ID. We've talked about this before, and gone out to like gay bars. I had seen gay people before, but I had never seen such a large concentration of queer people. And I obviously came from, a rural small town where you just didn't really see, like, I'm just going to say gay men because like at that time, that was probably like the most recognizable thing to me.
Were they partying on the street, or was there like a block where all the gay bars are at? Like what's happening?
Yeah, so Midtown Atlanta is like the neighborhood more or less, and there's a bunch of Peachtree streets in Atlanta, but there's like a specific main one that runs down a pretty central part of Midtown Atlanta, and then it funnels into Piedmont Park, which is the main park in Midtown. And
they're Dolores.
They're Dolores. And so the parade like goes through that route. And for, I don't know, like a mile and a half, just all the city blocks are covered with people because the Atlanta Pride was, and I think still is, the largest pride in the Southeast. So you have so many people coming from
definitely
Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, right? Even up from Florida, just because it is such a large and well-known pride and like really well-funded pride. So it was the first time I had ever seen that many queer people. And I think I was it was a bit overwhelming, but at the same time, I think I had never felt like such relief to just be like, oh my God.
Amongst others.
Yeah, there's just this many people like me.
Did you only do the Pride Parade? That I'm assuming it's Sunday.
It's Sunday. So I think we might have gone up both days because the Saturday before they do, they start the festival in the park where they've got like all kinds of vendors and things like that you can sort of see. And of course, people are day drinking and all of that. And I think we participated in some of that and then came back Sunday for the actual parade. We didn't stay there. Though in the city.
Did you drive back and forth or did you stay?
So.
Oh,
I think so.
Poverty.
Yeah. The one thing that that continues to really stick out to me though is, did you have the religious protesters at San Francisco Pride the first time you came? I don't recall seeing them here now, but I very rarely participate in the parade here.
I don't remember there being any, because I also did the parade that 2014, but I don't remember seeing any counter protesters. I mean, like, it's huge here. I mean, you've seen it now. It was huge.
And it's also San Francisco.
Then. San Francisco, I don't remember seeing, like, I don't know where they would counter protest.
Yeah, in Atlanta, they would do it right at the entrance to the park, and it was like extensions of the Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah,
the like God hates fags people. Yeah. And I remember for my first couple of prides, I would get in screaming arguments with those people. Which is such a me thing.
Yeah, and they're so pathetic.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no talking any sort of sense or rationality to those people. Also,
like there's no off limits place for them because. So I went to UC Santa Barbara, and in 2014 there was a mass shooting where 9 people were killed, and at our like funeral, like where for the school, they were counter protesting it.
Oh yeah, I mean they're like
pathetic.
They're like rage baiting sort of people, and I'm like, how are you going to sell people on God and heaven and all that when you're like basically demonizing them and just saying like the most grotesque, awful things? Really bad marketing, but I think they just really love the attention.
Yeah, they're absolutely pathetic.
One other thing that really sticks out to me with Pride, and I think I saw this from the first one I went to, was the amount of corporations and churches that participate in Pride.
What are your thoughts about that?
So which part of it? The religious participation or the organizations and companies that participate in it?
I was thinking more the companies.
Yeah. So I have participated in Pride parades with companies that I've worked for before, like the employee resource groups that help put on these like floats and do all of that. And I think that part's like cool, but obviously there's a lot of spend and advertisement that goes into Pride to market things like Bud Light, Coca-Cola, Home Depot, all these things to people. I guess you would call that like rainbow capitalism. And then also just like all the products that seem to flood stores around the month of Pride. I understand a lot of sort of the opposition or contrarian viewpoints of this, that it's just like branding stuff with Pride themes in order to sell more things. But at the same time, I think it might have had a more significant or positive impact in like these more rural places, like where I grew up, to have like the Target full of like rainbow branded products, right? Because I do think it provides some level of visibility and some sense of like helping normalize or promote acceptance of queer people.
Yeah, I don't have so much the issue with selling product marketed just to like make a quick buck if you put a rainbow sticker on it. That's going to happen in any sort of like capitalist society. Sure. My biggest problem is they do this and then the same corporations will then donate to Republican people that are anti-LGBT. So that's my issue, is if you're a corporation, I think you could fully participate. But if you spend money on lobbying to give, these Republicans a platform, like that's where your allyship ends. Like that's what makes me so pissed off.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's a great point. And I think it's just like really paying attention to where these companies are spending their money in terms of like different candidates they support or lobby through. I agree. One of the examples of rainbow capitalism that sticks out to me that I think to this day is one of the most ludicrous ones I've seen is Listerine. And I don't know if they do this every year or if it was just one particular year, but a few years ago, they literally just wrapped the plastic part that covers like the lid.
Listerine,
with a rainbow like graphic on it, but they didn't like create anything else about it that made it like a Pride product. So I'm like, if you're gonna do this, like at least put in the effort of like making it a unique product for Pride. Yeah,
if they really wanted to help out, they'd make a Listerine condom.
Which, like Listerine's a great product for Pride. A lot of these hoes need it.
Yeah. Oh my God, can you imagine how much like the burning sensation of a Listerine condom?
What Listerine should do is start showing up at all these circuit parties and just be handing out cups of Listerine throughout the party. That would be allyship for Pride.
Or like a tongue scraper.
Oh my God. Don't get me started on a tongue scraper.
If there's a black light and your mouth, your tongue lit up, girl, you got a problem. Pride is the least of your concern.
You've heard me like get on my pulpit about this, but every single person needs a tongue scraper. Yeah. And this is so bad. I'm the person that like, when someone's talking to me, I'm like staring at someone's tongue because I'm like,
I gotta get out. I
want to like put on my rubber gloves and get in there and just like scrape the shit out of their tongue.
That should have been one of your MASH occupations. Have you ever actually, like, what's the longest you've spent at a parade? Well, like they have the corporations like Apple Gaze, Microsoft Gaze. Like, what is the longest you've actually stood at the parade portion
and watched it?
And watched
the Atlanta ones. Like my first couple of years, I think I used to watch the majority.
Would you shout? Would you go, woo, Apple Gaze?
So of course they wouldn't know like what the order of the floats were. And in Atlanta, there was a gay strip club called Swinging Richards. And so everyone kind of waited for that float because it was just covered with the dancers and like G-strings and thongs and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that was like a really fun one that you would wait for. So I feel like that was the reason we ended up watching most of the parade.
What are your thoughts about having that sort of like sexuality in the parade? Like whether that be like people in G-strings or here in San Francisco, a lot of like the Folsom kink groups will be displaying their kink.
This is one of the more divisive topics that have come up as it relates to pride.
Yeah.
I know you talked about this in one of our early episodes around Folsom of like Gen Z talking about that it's too sexualized, etc. And people have been talking about this for pride for years. I, for the longest time, have been like a really strong defendant of like pride is not for children and is, you know, like for us to celebrate our identity, which is heavily rooted in sexuality. I mean, that's the reason that all these people have long hated us is the fact that we sleep with men and women sleep with women and etc. So I've been a strong proponent of that. I also have never seen like debaucherous or like really lewd things happen in the daytime in public at these events where like younger people could access it, right? Like Folsom is something that's like gated, like you have to show ID to get into it. And I guess like now what I'm thinking about is like pride has become so commercialized and corporate, and every year I do think I'm seeing like more families and kids show up. And so I think like maybe there can be like somewhere where we meet in the middle, like sections of the events that are gated off and you show ID like Folsom. If, you know, people want to do more of those kind of things in the daytime. But again, I have never seen those sort of lewd things happening where I was like, okay, this shouldn't be allowed at Pride. I think what a lot of people point out is that they'll see like a man walking around in a jockstrap or a thong, or like you just mentioned. But to me, then that's just body shaming, right? Like there's not anything necessarily inherently sexual about doing that.
Yeah, I think you're totally right that the like Pride has never been about a family friendly event. Like we are.
It's a demonstration.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a protest, right? It's supposed to be a counter protest of everything that's heterosexuality. So these families, like, it's not supposed to be a corporate allyship. Like this isn't here to normalize, or it's there to normalize being gay, but it's not to conform to heterosexuality.
Yeah,
like, there's a difference.
Totally, it's not here to like, and that's the thing. Like, and I think it's part of some of the divisiveness that we're seeing, and like trying to split maybe gay and lesbian from the broader LGBTQ plus.
I think what we're trying to say is snowflakes, go suck one.
Yes, snowflakes, go suck one. What I'm trying to say is that I think because there's so much corporate like participation and whitewashing, it's again trying to box queer people into this heteronormative standard and this very like PC sort of view of it. And to what you said earlier, Pride has always been a protest. Yes, it's a celebration, but it's a protest of like just a big FU of flicking off to those that have hated us, that want us to disappear, going back into the shadows, etc. And part of that is like accepting the part that makes us queer individuals, which is our same-sex attraction, and is that we like let our freak flag fly. You wear whatever you want. You show off that queer aspect of you in whatever way that looks like and means to you.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. Do you have any tips to surviving Pride, whether it be your first or your 10th time going to Pride?
Don't go. Just kidding.
Donate to Republicans.
No. First of all, bring lots of cash. You're going to need cash.
Yes. Like gays are notoriously cheap and they never want to pay their taxes properly. So everything.
I think it's all just because everything's been long run by mafia.
Yeah.
And
they kept the same business structure.
Yes. So you have to have cash, and because you're going to need to tip drag queens.
That's true.
Performers.
And the dancers. Yeah.
Yeah. So cash is king, and don't wait till the day of because ATMs are going to be out of money.
And you don't want to pay those charging fees.
Yep.
And then also the scanners, especially when you're under the influence and you're like trying to figure out like, is this safe to insert my card?
Yeah.
The answer is no.
You definitely need earplugs.
Yes, 100%.
These queens can scream at some really loud.
Yeah, and the music
volumes.
is just, the speakers are going to be bad.
Yep. You and your group should ideally dress in a coordinated fashion so that you can find each other.
I think it's a little hard. I think you should definitely have a point person where you can like if you get lost, find the the hunchback whale.
I'm just saying you need like a token or an item that you can help like identify each other.
Yeah.
Because when everyone's in rainbow themed stuff, it's like she looks like every other bitch.
Yeah, don't wear mesh.
Like
You're gonna get lost.
I turn around at Folsom. There's 15 of you standing around.
I know.
And I just have to call out your name, and then like 3 people respond, and I'm like, God damn it, which one is
narrow
Alex?
it down? Yes, I think those are great tips.
What about you? What would you recommend for surviving Pride?
I would say don't be a cheapo. Get the extra hotel room, because you don't want to be in a situation where you get sexiled, or you have to like sleep on the floor, the pull-out couch like that. Super uncomfortable.
Or you can't shower because someone's been douching for 45 minutes.
Yeah, like you got to think about it. Like, how are 6 people going to get ready if you're going to be douching? Like, it's going to smell super bad in there. No one can properly get ready, so you're going to look not your best. And it's just it's easier. It's easier. Get a second hotel room and just be happier. I would say stay away from the bars.
I agree with this one. It's like going out on Halloween or New Year's Eve where it's like amateur night.
Yeah. It's all the local people are going to be at the ticketed events, and it's all going to be these like random twinks from like Michigan.
It's going to be a bunch of demon twinks. And honestly, how many times can you listen to Rihanna's We Found Love in the same day?
Yeah, it's every gay bar is going to be sharing the same playlist. And then if you get stuck at the like 1980s bar, it's going to be like, we are family, which you don't want to be.
Why do they play those tracks? No one wants to hear that.
It's like the glass coffin sort of effect where it's just old people. That's what they want to listen to, and they don't know anything. They think everyone likes that genre. And then lastly, I would say skip the Pride parade. If you've done it once, spicy. You never ever have to go again. And like I said, I've never been to a Pride parade that is actually benefiting the LGBT. It's all just corporate allyship, which, like I said, they donate to. They might like sell product and donate a portion of the proceeds, but they're also donating to Republicans. So you can skip that and go to the day party.
Well, I think this is a great segue because my opinion differs on this one.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
We've never disagreed on something.
So according to a Gallup poll that was conducted in 2022, over 70% of Americans, so a super majority, now support marriage equality.
Yeah.
So do you think we still need Pride? Both the parade and like Pride Month?
So I think we definitely need Pride, and I think we definitely need Pride events. I think the parade, I think the way it currently is, no.
And you mean just because it's become so like corporate, and
it's become so corporate, and
the merchandisation of Pride.
Yeah. And like, if they really wanted to help, they'd be displaying the people most vulnerable. So like, they should be advocating for trans, like Apple and Microsoft should be saying, we support trans women and we're donated to these causes. Like, that's what they should be doing, instead of having every LGBT person that might work for them
Yeah. I would argue the counterpart, that seeing some of these really big corporations, like even though we can acknowledge that there's problems with them funding lobbyists and politicians and things that are sort of counter to our, goals and causes, it's still some level of visibility, right? Like, to be at like a Pride, like I'm going back to when I was like first sort of coming out and I had gone to my first Pride, like seeing these really big companies invest all this money into Pride and put on these big floats and put their name behind it. Like, it does add some sort of like weight, I guess I would say, that you're like, oh wow, these major corporations are supporting this. They're like making it a part of their objectives and initiatives to like recruit queer people. So I do think that in the way that it always is, like, visibility matters. And so I think we can try to have higher standards of these companies and like try to like advocate and push for them to support us in more meaningful ways.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the Pride Parade is really important because, we lose sight of this in the bigger cities where we just think that like that you can just go out and feel comfortable being yourself. But I go back to like where I grew up in my hometown and that wasn't the case, you honestly felt like sort of in fear every day. And so like for someone that might be like their first or several prides, like it's nice to see people show out and like you see the amount of people that are in your community, because it just really helps you feel like you're not alone.
Yeah. No, I agree with you that the representation does matter. I also think that you might be giving a little too much weight to them in terms of what they do. I think that they tend to follow public opinion.
Sure.
So
totally.
I think that it's a lagging factor. I also think that they don't acknowledge how, if and whatever amounts they donate outside of that city center.
Mm-hmm.
Like they make it, they think it's probably bad. I mean, I'm thinking Target last year.
Yeah.
Remember the Pride section when they, to all stores that I think had a Pride section, and once the conservatives got a hold of it, they started criticizing Target. Target took it down
or moved it to like the back of their stores.
Right. In these high risk areas, which, that doesn't sit well with me. And I'm also thinking of the Mulvaney incident with Bud Light.
Yep. Yeah. And I understand what you're saying. I mean, Target's decision there, I kind of understand, because they were, yes, they didn't like the backlash, but also they had the legitimate like safety of their employees in those retail stores to consider. But I am with you. Like I would have appreciated Target like doubling down on their efforts, because that's like true allyship. You're not just an ally when you're here for us when things are good and everyone's loving and supportive. Like you need to be an active voice in championing us when we're being attacked, and we're seeing more of that now than I think than ever. And the Dylan Mulvaney thing that you mentioned, another great example where like all a content creator did was receive a beer can with their face on it, and suddenly you've got all this backlash of people wanting to cancel a brand, and Budweiser completely left abandoned Dylan and didn't really say anything about it. So I agree with you. We should continue to like expect more of those corporations, but I don't think that their participation is just completely meaningless in Pride either.
Do you think people should feel guilty about going to these like Pride parties, these circuit parties, as a form of like protesting? Or do you think that there's like some sort of issue with that?
I don't think it's a form of protesting. I mean, this is where I was saying earlier that Pride, it's like a little underwhelming to me, and it's a little formulaic at this point. Like most people are there to just get fucked up and make bad decisions and like more or less have a good time. And that's great and all, but I think we've lost the plot a bit. And I think we need to pay more attention to what's going on right now, especially to our, trans sisters, our drag queens within our community. The temperature in the room is drastically increasing, and people are being targeted and further marginalized. And we need to figure out a way to bring Pride back, I think, to more what it originally was. Right. And there's a little bit of like the anger missing from Pride. And I think that's really frustrating for me.
Yeah. I think that Pride should be a form of like protest with your money. All these events should be raising money to go to some sort of LGBT cause. Yeah. Like I don't know why.
A lot of the legal defenses.
Yeah. Like why is every party not acknowledging like that they should be donating? Like that's why people should be going to these parties. Like that should be why we're having Pride.
Yeah. I mean, since you bring that up, I want to talk about the number of anti-LGBT legislation that's been going on in this country over the last couple of years. So we continue to see year on year increases in the amount of anti-LGBT legislation that's being filed, and it's escalating at a pretty rapid pace. So in 2018, there was like slightly over 40 bills specifically targeted against LGBT plus cohort, and that has since increased dramatically. So in the first 3 months of 2022 alone, there were over 200 bills that were filed. And now since 2018 collectively, there's like over 650 and at least one bill in basically every state in the union. So we continue to see this rapid increase in bills that are being filed largely, again, has been targeted at trans people, things like participation in sports, healthcare, but we're also seeing things like censorship in education and also continued assaults and bans on drag queens.
Yeah.
And like, my thing is like, where does it end? Florida just passed legislation banning rainbow lights on all their bridges this summer. And Huntington Beach, California has banned pride flags from flying at government buildings. So like we continue to see these what maybe feel like minute sort of erosions of visibility, but more and more this is just going to keep adding up. And so like I would like to see like some more concentration and focus on this. And I think what you've highlighted is a really great way is like making sure that the expectation is there that like we won't go to parties or things where the money is not being funneled back to like helping defend against some of these causes.
Yeah. And I think you point out at a good point that the people under attack right now are largely people of color in the LGBT.
Trans, people of color.
Particularly trans, right? In a country where we have 6 conservative judges on the Supreme Court, and that's going to be a chipping away at rights. There's going to be no protection of trans people for the foreseeable future, and that's not going to change. So right now, it's especially important that we celebrate Pride, but we also acknowledge that we're 2 cis men. We are privileged. We're not trans, and we need to make sure that we're helping and advocating for trans people. Like they're the ones that their rights are going to be mostly affected in the next few years.
Yeah. And I mean, our community is not free of its sins. We have our own problems of misogyny and racism and like, there's plenty of queer people that would tell you they want to separate the L and the G from everything else in, the alphabet. And it's just like, we have to come together. How do you feel about going to a pride in a more conservative area, like a pride parade? Would you go to like one in Miami?
Oh, again, I would never go to one in like a conservative part of the country unless I knew what I was doing was going to be directly helping some sort of group. Like I would a circuit party in Miami for shits and giggles because I know like people are going to be there. Like
I don't think I would go to like a circuit party, but I guess what comes to mind is maybe we need to start like as a community. I'm not saying like we specifically, but like we're probably not doing a whole lot of good by just continuing to go to these same massive prides in Chicago and New York and LA. Like what the communities that really need it are these like smaller ones that have struggled to put on pride parades and continue to get like backlash every year. Like what would it look like if 15% of the people that went to New York Pride showed up in somewhere like Tulsa, for example, like one year and like just gave like that sort of representation of, look, there's a lot of us here. Cause I think in these more rural places, it's just really easy to drown out like these smaller communities and sort of push them back into the closet. And so I would love to see like some of these organizers of these really big prides go help out one of the other ones and like maybe bring in some really big talent, funnel some money into that and try to convince a lot of people to come to like some of these smaller, areas.
It sounds a lot like the plot of We're Here.
Yeah, I've been watching We're Here. And
oh, did you see the new season?
I'm watching it currently.
Okay. Is it good?
It's good.
Okay.
I will say it's kind of triggering for me,
really?
For me in particular. Like, and it's made me think a lot about this conversation and this discussion that we're having today. But like, I think about the small town I grew up in, and you have like a legitimate fear of like walking around. And it's not just in school. It's like just walking around the town. There are like adults that would do horrible things to you. And like willingly, like they would want to. I remember there was a guy that had graduated school and like he still hung out with the seniors because he was a fucking loser. He's like 22 and an idiot. He's never going to leave his hometown. I think he's been arrested a couple of times now. But there was a guy in my high school that came out, was immediately kicked out of the church, shunned by the community, like, ostracized. When he'd be walking on the street, people would clearly be whispering about him. Well, he was walking home one day from school and that guy like followed him home in his truck and hit him in the head with a baseball bat.
Killing him?
He didn't kill him. Sent him to the hospital though. They knew it was him. They never arrested him or did anything to him. And still to this day, there's a lot of states that have gay, what is it? Is it gay panic? Gay panic or queer panic sort of defense laws. And it's not protected federally. And so this We're Here show is bringing back a lot of those like memories for me of like being in that environment where it's just every day you kind of feel like you're in a fight or flight mode. And I think a lot of people may just not have experienced that, or because they've lived in like really accepting communities for a long time, they have like sort of forgotten what that was like. And, you know, We're Here is great because it's giving you visibility into not only have these communities not really gotten any better, in many ways they've regressed because there's just a lot of fear and hatred that's bubbling up in our country right now. And so this is my point that I think we need to find more ways to spread out pride, to do it in a different way that can help out some of these like more marginalized and smaller communities.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great point. I think that representation is really important, but I think that something that could have a very impacting lasting presence would be an actual structure. Yeah. So organization in that area that is there to help and elect people that are going to actually make good decisions for the LGBT.
Yeah.
But I totally agree that visibility is important.
So in saying that, like, I think there's a few different ways that like we can all celebrate Pride and support Pride. And I don't think it should just be centered to the month of June.
Yeah.
But I think one of the most important things that we can all do right now is pay really close attention to local legislation, understand like what bills are being passed at your like state and even more local levels, because the reality is there's a pretty concerted effort, like these same sort of organizations and individuals that are following the same kind of legislation across states. So I'd say pay attention to that and really push for accountability with your legislators and making sure that you're voting for people that support our causes. And then another thing I think that we can do is like donate. So, I mean, there's so many great organizations out there, you know, GLAAD, HRC, Trevor Project, all these sort of things, like, you know, do some research. But I think it's a pretty low-lift way for us to like help out, you know, our queer brothers and sisters.
Yeah. I think in sum, and to close this section out, I think that people shouldn't feel guilty about going to Pride and Pride events. I think that you should celebrate yourself.
Totally.
I just think that shouldn't be the end all. You should donate and you should vote Democrat. Like, that's point and simple. Like, if you live in a Democratic state or Democratic section of a state, you need to donate to other parts of the country that actually have a shot at winning. Like any sort of battleground state or battleground district, like that's where you should be putting your money in. Like, celebrate. That's totally cool, but that shouldn't be the end all.
Yeah, we just can't lose sight of that. There's still a battle to be fought here. And we have to come together and fight for it together.
Yeah. Protect trans women like they protected us for so long.
Yep. Well, I wish everyone a happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
And we will talk to you next week.
All right. See ya.
See ya. Hey, it's Colby and Alex here. Thank you for listening to No Notes.
If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to follow us wherever you get your podcasts and share with your friends.
You can also follow us on Instagram at No Notes Pod, one word, where you'll find updates on new episodes and see more into our lives and the stories that we share with you on this show.
Your support means the world to us. Until next time, keep it real and keep it queer.